Why would we not? Why would we not let the goodness that is in us from Jesus, why would we not let it shine for others to see? As Jesus begins his public ministry and continues this sermon on the hillside overlooking the beautiful Sea of Galilee, we heard last week about the Beatitudes, the way that we should be in the world. We know that those attitudes sometimes stand apart from the attitudes that our culture might present to us. And this evening, Matthew's gospel continues with this very simple teaching of Jesus, that we need to let our light shine before others. The good deeds we must work in order to be known and seen as a Christian. And why would we not? Jesus uses two very vivid and real examples in today's gospel, that we are called to be salt, we are called to be light. Again, sometimes it's difficult for us living in 2017 to place ourselves way, way back in the time of Jesus, and understanding really completely the value of salt and light. Without salt, their food could not be preserved. Without salt, many people would die of starvation. Without salt, there would not be the ability to preserve food for the future. Salt, in so many ways, was life, a very valuable commodity. Even in our own time, while salt is very readily accessible, we know how important it is. People oftentimes that have to have a low sodium diet complain that things just don't taste the way that they used to. And we know that a little bit of salt goes a long way. When you have too much, it makes it almost unpalatable when there's too much salt added to something. And we know when we eat too much salt, our mouths are dry. We crave water to replace the moisture that salt pulls out of us in a similar way that it does in meats that makes it preserved. Jesus is saying, well, why would you throw it on the ground and trample on it? You need to use it for good. And why would we not? Another very vivid image is light. We know that a city set on a hill cannot be hidden. In antiquity, they built cities on hills so that they could see people approaching the city. In fact, they had watchmen in the first and second and third watch of the night, people having their eyes on the horizon in all directions so that they would know whether someone was going to attack them and steal their possessions. So a city on top of a hill cannot be hidden. Indeed, it cannot, especially when there is light in it. The fuel that offered light in antiquity, oftentimes an oil, olive oil, or depending on where one was in the world, sometimes forests were prevalent, but not certainly in the places of Jesus. They didn't cut down trees to build fires typically. So how important is it that if you were going to spend money, and again, we have the blessing of light switches and electricity, but if you were going to spend money on putting in a light, like this candlelight, if you're going to spend money to do it, why would you put it under a bushel basket? It's a simple question that Jesus is asking. Why would we hide the fact that we're Christians? Why would we not let the good works that should be part of our lives not be seen? It's a wonderful question for us to consider. Jesus says, let our light shine. Now we know that that is a metaphor for the goodness that is part of how we see light in the world. We don't walk around with a little battery pack under our clothing and turn it on so we can let our light shine, but rather we know that good deeds done in Jesus' name allows the light to become visible in the world. Both last week and this week's gospel, the Beatitudes and us being salt and light, help us to examine our conscience. How well are we doing being the light for others? It's a good question for us to ask. And it can be done very, very simply. I think about any of the human interactions that we have throughout the day. It's always better at checkout at the grocery store or some other place to be polite and kind. I can't tell you how many people are surprised when I ask them how they are. How many times we just look at the person and value who they are and what a difference it makes in the world. How we could, it's less easy to do with Easy Pass, but how we can kind of pay it forward. Just pay for the toll for the person behind you. What a difference that makes when we can do something good and simple and anonymously. The way that we talk to each other rather than about each other might be a way that we let our light shine. If we're known to be the school or office gossip, and we and our friend talk about someone else, what do you think that friend thinks? As soon as I walk away, I'm going to be the person being talked about. It's something simple for us to do, to hold our tongue, to really value that saying, if there's nothing good to say, then don't say anything at all. Let our light shine. These are just some simple ways that we can live the goodness that are in our heart that we were given at baptism. At our baptism, we light a baptismal candle from the Paschal candle, which is lit at the Easter Vigil and given to the godparents to present to the child. And it says, keep this flame of faith alive in your heart so that when Jesus comes again in glory, he might see you as a living Christian, keeping our light burning brightly. And why would we not? Why would we not take a little salt and add it to our meal to make it taste just a little bit better? Why would we ever light a light and then hide it so that no one could see it? It doesn't make sense. So let us be like Jesus, and may we let our light shine for all to see.